I'm Andy, and this is
Breeze. Hello.
And we are doing Not So Standard. This is the premiere. This is the premiere of Not So Standard, where we show you guys games that are anything but standard. So this is going to be a standard match, but we're going to... I had to do it.
I knew you were going to say that, and I'm so glad you did.
I had to do it. But, yeah, so this is going to be a standard match, but it's going to be a heavily explained match. We're going to go through every single thing. We're going to show you guys the best gameplay that you can get with these decks, what you should do in the matchups, what you should do generally when you're playing these decks. If you wanted to go pick up Giratina, you could follow the steps that Breeze is going to show you today, and you can literally win a game the moment you pick it up. I guarantee it. Same thing goes for VMAX. So we're going to talk about everything we're doing step by step.
But yeah, I'll go ahead and interject. This was kind of my idea. I think that doing what I consider like an over-explained kind of matchup, when you put air quotes around the over-explained, is really worth it for a lot of newer players. The series, I'm going to say, is intended to be for people who are familiar with the game but want to take their gameplay to the next level. So that's really important to keep in mind. We're really trying to teach more of the nuanced decisions that you make throughout the course of a game, assuming that you already know how to play. I think it's going to be really interesting. I think it's going to be really fun. We can go ahead and start off before the game even starts. There are things in Pokemon that you need to think about, and the big one is going to be your deck. Like, you get 60 cards, you have to pick your 60 cards.
Right.
And sometimes that Echoing Horn can win you a game. Sometimes you wish you had a different card than the Drapion, right?
That's very true.
So keep in mind, when you're building a deck, your 60 cards should be pretty much perfect for how you play who you are. So that's really all I wanted to cover before the game started. For the rest of it, we're just going to be talking about the decisions you make in-game, how you should be thinking and approaching a game. So right now, we're going to go ahead and go with the coin flip. This is the first major decision of a game that you make.
And what do you always go with?
I always go with tails.
All right.
I always flip tails.
That's right.
Wait, I should go for heads because my opponent always flips heads.
That's true.
I'll take heads.
And you can see that it was very clear to always let your opponent pick the coin flip so that you always win.
Fair point.
I'm kidding. So as a Mew player, I think it's important to talk about this because a lot of people make this mistake. I'm not going to go second. A lot of people do that because they're like, you know what? If I go second, maybe I can get a donk. Maybe I can do whatever. I am playing the double turbo version. Even if you're playing the Fusion Strike version, the opportunity to go first is just always so good. You should take that opportunity. And I don't know what my opponent's playing. No, I wouldn't even do it for Fusion Mew to be honest. Because you never know what your opponent's playing, and if you're just going to let them go first, and then you get a bad start, you just lost the entire game. So,
absolutely. And that's a really, really good point, and that's totally worth mentioning, is exactly what Andy just said. Some matchups you want to go second, or blind, if you don't know what you're playing against, go first.
Yep.
Unless your deck is like specifically built to go second, like a Durant deck, right?
Exactly. So I'm going first here.
Yep.
Another thing we can talk about just while we're setting up, maybe if we have more than one basic Pokemon like I do right here, I'm not going to bench both of my Pokemon. Even if I'm going first, I don't want to give my opponent that extra edge.
Right, we got a mulligan, so I did it a little bit early, but I waited until Andy put his card down to show him I have a mulligan. Sometimes showing your opponent what you're playing can affect their decision on what to start.
We're going to change that, sorry.
Now, it's really funny. I do want to mention, because I thought of this the other day, Andy, can you think of a scenario where you would ever pre-bench right now?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I can.
I want to know if it's the same as I have.
Well, so sometimes it's better to bench two Pokemon when your opponent has the ability to use, like, Greninja on turn 1, but back then you were actually able to attack, so that's like the one thing I know of. What was the scenario you were thinking of?
All right, so this is a very, very fringe scenario, but it actually did come up at locals last week for me. Let's say that I draw 7 cards, the only basic in my hand is a Drapion, so I put the Drapion down.
Right.
And my opponent takes a mulligan. You see where I'm going with this?
Oh,
so I take my one mulligan card, let's say it's a Comfey.
Yep.
If I'm going second, I might want to bench that Comfy in case Andy on his first turn plays an Escaper.
I actually agree with that 100%. You should 100% do that, especially if you start something suboptimal.
All right.
This deck only has 2 Pokemon to start, so...
Pretty much the only scenario I can think of in Standard right now where you would want to pre-bench something, because there is no turn 1 hand disruption in Standard right now.
That's right. So we're good to go. Again, I have a second Pokemon. I'm not going to bench it right away. And looking at this hand, it's pretty good. And basically what I want to accomplish before this game has even started is I want to accomplish 2 Genesect and 2 Mew V. I don't even care what my opponent's playing. Those are the options: 2 Mew, 2 Genesect. You can fill your board to anything past that, but those are what I'm looking for.
Right, and I have a little bit of a rough hand here, but we do have Comfy start, another Comfy in hand, and a Beach Quartz. It's worth thinking as soon as you see you're starting 7 cards, or if you take a mulligan more, start developing a game plan.
Right.
You might not know what you're playing against, but I know exactly how I'm going to start playing out my next turn, barring a good top deck. But that's generally your first hand decides the course of the game. Yep. I know exactly what I want. I know exactly how I'm going to play my turn, unless I get some crazy top deck that changes my way of thinking.
Good luck here.
Good luck.
We're going to draw for turn, and I immediately see a Comfey, which means to me that's either Goodra, Giratina, or Lost Box, right? And against all 3 of those decks, you want to get down a 3rd Mew V. So that's going to be what I try and go for this game, is a 3rd Mew V going on the bench here. I can actually put these down a little bit more. So looking at this hand, it's pretty good. We've got that Nest Ball. We want to, of course, search the deck, look for our prize cards. And for this, in the Mew deck, it's actually really easy because you play 4 basics of each, so that's 8 plus 3 VMAX, so you're playing a total of 11 Pokemon, so all you do is count your Pokemon: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I haven't prized a single Pokemon. I can just move on to the energies. I go to the energies, I only play 4, so 1, 2, look at my hand, 0. So I've prized 2 energies, so I can't really just attach those whenever I want. I really need to be careful with those. So I'm looking through the deck now, and that's about all I care about in this deck. Obviously, you know, the power tablets are good, the paths are good, the supporters are good, but for this deck in particular, those are the 2 things you want to be very cautious with. So I am going to take a Mew V and put it on my bench with that Nest Ball. And you want to go for the Mew here and not the Genesect, because I'm not guaranteed another one unless I use the Star Alchemy. So that's always interesting to note. Now, I'm kind of in a particular spot that most people get like kind of afraid of, but I'm actually going to just attach the Forest Seal Stone and use Star Alchemy. I'm not afraid of this right now because the setup is key to winning these games. If Breeze has a shaky setup and I have a great setup, then I am just really far ahead. So we've established those 2 Genesect and 2 Mew, and then we've got that extra Genesect to help us try and get into a 3rd Mew V like we talked about. I am going to use it is why. Just to comment on one of Fancy's comments there. I don't want to hold this in my hand because I want to draw cards this turn. So I am going to go ahead and play a Lost Vacuum to remove that Forest Seal Stone and a Path to the Peak.
Yep, I'll give you some space over here.
Yep. And I can move these down a tiny bit more.
To add a little bit to that as well, it doesn't matter if you save Star Alchemy if you never use Star Alchemy.
Right.
Like, there's no Star Alchemy for next game, you know?
True.
If you're in a position where it's use Star Alchemy or lose, use Star Alchemy. If you're in a position where it's use Star Alchemy or have a bad start, use Star Alchemy.
This is a particular spot that most people find themselves in where they want to use this power tablet to draw an extra card. Do not, at any cost, do that. Unless your hand is like, or unless your board is like 1 Mew V and 1 Genesect and you like need to draw cards. But I'm in a scenario where all I need next turn is a double turbo and a Mew VMAX. So we're just going to use Fusion Strike System for 3 cards, 2, 3. Just like that, we have the Mew VMAX, which means this Ultra Ball is no longer viable to us, and we're just going to get rid of it. And this is going to search for that Mew V that we talked about. And that's exactly what it gets. Now here, I have 2 options. I have the ability to go in with a Battle VIP Pass. Actually, 3 options. I have the ability to go in with a Feather Ball, Nest Ball, right, to go grab a Mew V, but for this scenario, I'm actually going to go just grab the Mew, because I want access to those cards for Cram-O-Matic later in the game. Cram-O-Matic being a really good card if you have item cards in your hand, and if you don't, then it's just dead weight. So, and that one's probably something that most players don't just like pick up on, right? Oh, I should use the Battle VIP Pass because it's my first turn. But what you don't know is that afterwards, you're going to have 1 less item card in your deck that you could have Cram-O-Matic and grabbed one. Why don't you grab the DTE? Don't attach a DTE if you only have 2 in deck.
Exactly. That's a really good point, because if Handy attaches a DTE and loses that DTE, that's a really awful position with only 1 left in the deck.
Yep.
You're forced to make aggressive plays, and I know I can take that DTE off his board with a Drapion.
Exactly. So here we go. Just like I talked about, me getting rewarded because I didn't use the Battle VIP Pass to go find the Mew V, I got a Cram-O-Matic and the Battle VIP Pass for next turn, a Double Turbo, a Mew VMAX, a Power Tablet, and, you know, just a Roxanne to keep later on in the game. So I've got everything I need. I'm ready to pass the turn. Some people right here, they'll go attach the double colorless or the double turbo, and then they'll go Cram-O-Matic, and then they'll go Power Tablet and draw more cards. Just because you have access to the Fusion Strike system doesn't mean that you necessarily should Fusion Strike system. That's one of the most important parts about playing this deck. So I'm going to pass the turn over to Breeze with a nice, fresh 6-card hand.
Excellent. Alright, and before I even drop her turn, I'm going to mention some of the things that are in my hand. So with Double Roxanne, I'm thinking I can get rid of one, and I can fall behind in this game pretty reliably and not be too afraid. Obviously, Roxanne doesn't always work against Mew, but before my turn even starts, I'm gathering as much information as possible. So here's what I see. I see a Path to the Peak in the Lost Zone, so no Meloetta down, no Fusion Energy in sight. This is going to be a Double Turbo build of Mew. Now I'm developing my game plan around that. So my game plan generally in this matchup is to use Dynamic Tail to knock out a VMAX, and then use Star Requiem to knock out another VMAX. Because chaining Psychic Leap doesn't always work in these matchups for the Mew player. It's not always a reliable thing. But that's why you do go triple Mew, so that you can chain Psychic Leaps if given the opportunity. But now I'm looking at this start, and I think, okay, I've got a second Comfy, I've got Double Roxanne, I have a way to unbrick my hand if I fall behind, and potentially slow down Andy if he tries to path me during my turn. That being said, we'll go ahead and draw for turn, find a Mirage Gate off the top deck, doesn't do anything. So before I use any of these cards, I'm gonna Flower Selecting. This gives my opponent as little information about my hand as possible. So we get to look at the top 2, Battle VIP Pass and Escape Rope. Very, very obvious what I'm going to do here. Get rid of the Escape Rope. This just accelerates my setup so much. So we're going to go ahead and play the Battle VIP Pass. And he already talked about prize checking during his turn, so I'll forego that a little bit. But a lot of the time I'm just checking for the important pieces. How many V-Stars do I have? My deck only runs a 2/2 of Giratina. How many Vs do I have? Is the Drapion in deck. Things like Luminion, Greninja are awesome as well, so I need to make sure that they're all there. And energies as well really matter a lot for my build. A lot of Giratina lists run 2 energy recyclers and a Clara. I run 1 Clara, 1 recycler in my list. Other things that I look for are Colress's Experiment, very important card. It looks like I did end up prizing one of those, and Mirage Gates are also very important. If you have the time, obviously you don't always have the time to do it, but if you can check for other things like switch cards, lost vacuums. Those are super important as well. But sometimes you get caught up on like, okay, which energies did I prize? Which Pokemon did I prize? When you prize check the way that Andy and I do, it's a lot easier to count everything quickly, but you can get caught up. When I count energies, I like to count it in a certain specific way. I know I run 4 grass, 4 psychic, 3 water, so I count through the deck that way. I say 1, 1, 1, and then I come across 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 2, 4, 2, 2, 4, 3, 2, and I prize a psychic because there's a water in my hands. Alright, so that, if you can, is always a really good option to count that way. Actually, meant to grab Greninja instead of Giratina here, sorry. Got a little caught up in the talking. We'll grab a Radiant Greninja, another Comfey, and another Comfey in the hand. So we're feeling pretty good so far. Chorus this turn would really be the icing on the cake. I really am aiming to get to 4 in the Lost Zone here because it makes it easy to get to 7 next turn. Set up something potentially with a Drapion as well. So go ahead and get shuffled. Or tap or cut.
Always cut the deck.
And with this hand, obviously second Comfey is fine to bench, but I want to give my opponent as little information as possible. We're going to go ahead and use concealed cards. The reason we're doing concealed cards before flower selecting is because that's a guaranteed 2 cards. I don't have to pick between one or the other. Those are some really excellent cards, and I would hate to have to select between the 2 of them. Lost Vacuum is such a great card when you have a Beach Court in hand already. So now I pretty much get to play the Battle VIP Pass for 2 Giratinas, and I am set up to where I want to be set up. Giratina V, and Giratina V. Ensuring that if you go for one of the Giratinas, I still have a second one set up. And with a hand this good, having the Lost Vacuum especially, I am threatening a turn 2 Star Requiem. So if you do go Boss Tablet, knock out a Giratina V, I can return with a Star Requiem and then eventually clean up with Drapion to win the game. It's also very difficult for Turbo Mew to hit that 280, especially if you've already committed a damage mod.
Very true.
And these are all things that I'm keeping in mind specifically for one matchup. You have to think about game plans for every single matchup you play. What about Cram here so you can kill that Mew later? I actually find that using Cram against the double Turbo Mew, again, I see the path, so I'm not betting on it being Fusion Mew. I find that Cram swing into Mew is generally pretty awful, because it's pretty easy for Andy to return Knock Me Out with a Psychic Leap, and also because my game plan is to just Star Requiem plus Dynamic Tail, like, yeah, the Cram can put pressure on, but that means that I'm swinging for 110 for, like, no real gain, when I could just Requiem later anyway. There's no real need to Lost Impact. Let's go ahead and get the Beach Court down. That'll allow me to retreat for free into a different Comfey and use Flower Selecting, so top 2. Ultra Ball and Giratina V-Star. The V-Star is not prized. I didn't prize any V-Stars, so I'm going to get rid of 1. I really only need 1 for this matchup. The Ultra Ball for Lumineon is excellent this turn. It's a little bit risky to put it in play, but I really want to get to 4. So Ultra Ball for Lumineon, right? Now there are V-Stars in here to grab a Colress's Experiment. And again, this is one of those situations similar to Andy using Star Alchemy, where it can be tempting to not put the Lumineon down here. But if I pass my turn with only 2 in the Lost Zone, or if I go Vacuum to get to 4 and then Spit, I really feel like I haven't developed my board and my hand in any meaningful way. Because looking at the hand, like next turn, I'm just going to use Flower Selecting, and if I hit nothing, I'm going to lose the game.
Yeah.
So this is one of those other situations where it's like, yeah, it would be really nice to not have to bench the Lumineon, but I have to play the game. I need to get to a point where I'm strong enough to keep up with Mew. And that's why Luminous Sign for Chorus is going to be my play this turn. So immediately we see a whole bunch of cards that I need to keep this Drapion. I'll just keep it face up, honestly, since we're playing this way. And a Chorus. Now these are the cards that you can kind of think about The Heavy Ball, not really important. Didn't prize any basic Pokemon. It's a pretty easy toss away. And a Hawlucha, like, doesn't really matter too much for this matchup. I would really much rather have a Chorus for next turn, a Drapion, obviously I have to keep, and an energy attachment for turn. Let's go ahead and put those 3 in my hand. And now, could play the Vacuum this turn, but if I get pathed, I would rather keep the Vacuum, because one of Andy's plays, one of DTE Mew's plays, is to boss a Giratina, knock it out, play Path to the Peak. Now I have access to bumping the path, and I can get a return knockout with a Drapion that's in my hand. He can't disrupt and gust in the same turn, so that is exactly why I'm going to commit to this play. We'll put the Grass Energy down to Giratina. I can't activate, but I would not want to be seeking anyway in this matchup. I'll go ahead and pass.
Alrighty.
And that 4 is exactly what I wanted.
For turn? Okay, so we did get a Judge off the top, which is pretty good. Without thinking about much this turn, we can evolve and go ahead and attach a double turbo. So this turn, there's 2 options that I have depending on which route I want to go. One of them is to Psychic Leap the active for 80, which feels very strong, and then promote a Mew V, which would force Breeze to take an awkward number of prizes if he wanted to do that. Or I have the option of maybe bossing the Giratina with the energy and taking 3 knockouts for game. Now, knowing that Breeze's hand is rather large, and he has access to 2 Comb Phase and the Greninja if I knock out a Giratina, I'm actually going to go for a knockout on this active Comb Phase. So that does need a Power Tablet still, so we're going to play the 1 Power Tablet, because we're doing 50 damage plus the 30, that's going to be 80. And we have these cards in our hand, and rather than me playing this Cramomatic to no avail, we're just going to go ahead and Judge right away.
Excellent. And this is another really good scenario to mention, that as soon as you get judged, you need to start thinking about what your game plan is for the rest of the game as well.
Yep.
Can you draw out of the Judge? How are you going to play the rest of the game? These are all things that you need to think about as soon as you see those 4 cards that you draw.
Now, this is another reason that I'm doing this and not the more aggressive play, is that if Breeze ends up using Drapion or using Star Requiem and I lose my 1 of 2 double turbos, then I'm probably going to lose the game. This way, I guarantee the double turbo is going to go back into the deck where I have access to it further. Good job. Thanks, Big Main. Welcome to the stream.
Hope you're having a great night. We're just doing a little bit of over-explained, as I call it, Pokemon games.
Anything but standard. There we go, getting 4 cards there. We're going to keep the tablet there so everybody knows. So again, we've got a particular scenario where, like, I have a bunch of really good cards in my hand, and I don't necessarily need to play any of them, right? I don't need to play the Pal Pad yet. I only have 1 supporter in the discard pile. I don't want to play the Ultra Ball because what would I grab here? Another VMAX for him to potentially knock out. And if I play Path, I can't draw anything. So rather than playing any of these cards, I'm going to use Fusion Strike System for 2. 1, 2.
Is that a $300 card you playing with Giratina? Actually, 2 of them, yes.
I'm going to attach a Choice Belt, and this Choice Belt is actually going to go on the benched Mew V. And I am going to copy... actually, here's the thing, is I could draw 1 more card with the Fusion Strike System, and I actually think I will. But sometimes it's important to, like, not draw more cards, because if I ended up getting another Battle VIP pass off of this, and this wasn't an Ultra Ball, this hand would be pretty bad. But the fact that I have the Ultra Ball makes me feel comfortable. I'm okay drawing 1 more card. And it's an Avery, right? Something we didn't really want to see this turn, but it's okay right now. So we're going to go ahead and go copy the Psychic Leap for the knockout, doing 80 damage, and we're going to shuffle back into the deck and promote the Mew V without the Choice Belt.
Excellent. It's obviously going to be a comfy promote. Andy will get 1 prize off of this. For me right now, I can think about looking for a knockout on a Genesect or a Mew. Those are my 2 realistic options. Genesect knockout is actually really impactful for crippling Andy's engine.
True.
It's a very important thing that we can do. What is the V-Star used for? V-Star... Well, V-Star Giratina for Star Requiem just immediately knocks out a Pokemon.
Yeah, it's busted.
Yes, it is. So yeah, we got the 4 cards in hand. Like I said, I'm already thinking about what I want to do. We have the Mirage Gate, we have Double Energy. Very easy to concealed cards one away. Go for the V-Star and try to accelerate a Mirage Gate and take a knockout here. But then, as I was saying, with Knockout Mew versus Knockout Genesect, sometimes crippling Andy's Engine can be important. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at what he has in the discard. We have a Nest Ball, an Ultra Ball. There's no Pokemon in here.
Yep.
So we're going to see what we draw before we determine what we want to do.
And this is kind of a risky play if I had prized a Mew V, but we know from the check that we did that there's no Pokemon that are in the prize cards. So I am more than comfortable giving up a Mew V and even another Mew V if I have to.
Right
Oh,
on.
the V-Star token. What is the V-Star token? It's just a little V-Star token. Yep. You get them in some of the boxes.
All right, so we drew for turn. We found a Lost Vacuum off the top deck. Very good card to find here because that guarantees a 7. We'll start with concealed cards. I already explained why you would conceal cards before you use Flower Selecting. Those are pretty good cards. Now we'll go ahead and use Flower Selecting. Top 2 here. Water Mirage Gate. So Greninja can be pretty cool in this matchup to attack with, and seeing the water energy here makes me kind of a little tempted to do it into double Mew, but I'm gonna elect to just go ahead and grab the Mirage Gate here. I think that Lost Impact this turn is a pretty strong action, so that's what I'm going to be going for. We are going to go ahead and accelerate to 7 after I retreat. So ordering, of course, is very important here. Retreat the Comfey, get into a Giratina.
Whoa.
Thunderstorm out there.
The y'all post y'all deck.
Yes,
yeah,
we do.
Y'all do.
We'll do.
Y'all do.
Go ahead and play a Lost Vacuum. I'll just get rid of a Lost Vacuum in this Beach Court. That'll get me up to 7. We have the Giratina V-Star in hand already. I'll go ahead and play a Mirage Gate. We're going to keep the other Mirage Gate, just in case. And let's see, so I know that didn't prize any water energy, that is correct.
And this is important. Breeze would have never gotten this turn if he didn't use Colress last turn.
Exactly. So
thinning the deck, making sure that you're drawing cards every turn, making sure that you're getting more cards in the Lost Zone, because if you judge and don't draw Colress, you're out of luck.
Exactly. So at this point, I'm just going to basically say that I give up on the Radiant Greninja play. It's not super important. I'm going to be Lost Zoning this water energy. I think it's totally fine to do that. You can Lost Impacts for 2 prizes here. Get 2 more in the Lost Zone, which means that we are 1 flower selecting away from 10, which is our Star Requiem number. We have the Mirage Gate in hand already, but we do need to find a Clara if we get knocked out by this V-Star, since I lost on one of the V-Stars, only running a 2/2 stack. All things that we need to think about when we're playing, so let's go ahead and get the Giratina V-Star down. I haven't attached for turn yet. I have the Psychic Energy. I'm going to elect to keep it in my hands, because I can attach it next turn, I can concealed cards it away for extra card draw if I need it. Again, with only a 3-card hand, things can get a little bit rough. There's a crazy thunderstorm happening right now. That, and next turn I can, with a switch, get to 10, hope to find another switch card, and then attach Requiem as an option. Let's go ahead and Lost Impact for 280 damage. Lost on those energies and take 2 prizes.
Sounds good.
Found a boss and an escape rope. Very good prizes.
I will promote a Mew V. We know this turn that we have to knock out this V-Star, and ideally I want to take a knockout with the V-Star and Judge to put Breeze to a new hand, because last turn he saw a lot of cards and kept a lot of cards in his hand. So we are going to draw for turn here. And it is going to be a Cram-O-Matic. See, this keeps coming back. If I had used the Battle VIP Pass to grab that Mew, I wouldn't have access to using the Cram-O-Matic right now. So I'm going to go ahead and start out with the attachment. We know that we have to attack with this Mew V. And we're going to go ahead and use that Cram-O-Matic. Really wanting to get a Power Tablet this turn, make sure that we can take a knockout. And it's a Tails. No problem at all. At this point, we're just kind of looking forward to getting the knockout with the Mew V, potentially with a Path of the Peak in the end. So we're going to Ultra Ball, discarding a Pow Pad and an Avery. And at this point, I have 1, 2, 3 Mew VMAX, and I only have 2 Mew V. So as cool as it would be to grab the Mew V, guaranteeing the attack here is just so strong. So I'm going to grab the VMAX. Next, we're going to go ahead, correct sequencing here. Instead of playing the Path of the Peak and using Judge and crippling myself, I'm going to use Judge, put the Path of the Peak back into the deck, and hopefully draw into it a little later in this turn.
Right, so that Judge is very impactful. Again, I gotta think about how I'm going to navigate from here. I've kind of set this up in a way that if Andy does take the knockout on my Giratina this turn, he is in Roxanne turns, so it is a little bit risky for him to play Path, just in case I draw into the Roxanne. But me Ultra Balling away the Roxanne in early turns might make him think that maybe there's not a second one.
Right, and that's exactly what I'm thinking right now, is my opponent got rid of his one card to disrupt, and he's also gotten rid of a bunch of energies already, so the odds of him drawing out of a Judge into something crippling with a Path of the Peak in play might be kind of difficult. So we're going to draw those 4 cards here, 2, 3, and 4. And we did get one of those Power Tablets, so now we're just looking for one more. Actually, I'm going to be a good player for a second. We're going to Nest Ball and make sure that there is one more tablet.
Fair enough.
And there is one more tablet in the deck, so that's what we're looking for this game. Now, at this point, I want to have the ability to use Psychic Leap again, so I will get another Mew V, and I have one more in my hand, so we do have access to that, and we just need that last Power Tablet to end up taking the knockout on this Giratina V-Star.
Right. Very powerful, those Power Tablets. I'm also going to chime in real quick during Andy's turn. It's worth it if you're playing a best of 3. Alarm bells are going off in my head seeing cards like this.
Yes. I'll play Power Tablet now, and now that we have one card that we can't play, we will go ahead and Fusion Strike System for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And unfortunately, we didn't get very many playable cards. So we're going to use a Feather Ball. And here I could grab a VMAX for next turn, but it's honestly not that worth it. So we're just going to look through the deck. And we've got one more card to draw with this Genesect. And we're looking for an Ultra Ball or a Power Tablet, of course, would be nice. Or a Vacuum. There's so many things that we can use, but this hand needs something. So maybe Cram-O-Matic can pull us out of it. We're going to see. So we are only going to get one card off of this, but Fusion Strike System for 1, it's going to be a Vacuum. So that is something I can use now. And we're going to go ahead. I think as important as Path of the Peak is right now, it is really important to get this knockout so I can hopefully prevent a knockout next turn. So I'm actually going to Vacuum away that Path of the Peak, so that we can draw cards. We have 3 more cards. Cram-O-Matic is an out. Power Tablets, of course, an out. So let's see if we can get it. Fusion Strike System for 3. 1 card, 2 card, and 3 card. We did indeed get it. So we're going to Power Tablet. And that is going to be Cross Fusion Strike, copying Techno Blast for 280 damage exactly with those 2 Power Tablets and Choice Belt.
Big knockout there. 2 prizes. Alright, so no Path to the Peak. And obviously playing against Mew means that I really don't care that much about playing Roxanne this turn.
That's right.
I've got the Drapion in hand already and an energy attachment. I will start by drawing for turns so that I can talk through the options a little bit more. So normally I'd say you can use concealed card. You should use concealed cards before you use flower selecting. This is the only energy in my hand, and the only switch card I have is an escape rope, and I have a Drapion already. So why would you conceal cards that you get rid of your guaranteed pivot back into Drapion? And if I attack with Drapion, then I'm basically a Clara away from winning the game.
Right.
So I see the double paths of the peak. I think there might be a lost city, so I do kind of want to think about other alternative methods. But right now, the way it's sitting, I have Clara for game is like one of my only options if I do decide to go with the Drapion play this turn specifically. Because I can Clara for this and then Mirage Gate to it. I can Clara to get the Drapion back if it's not lost zoned. Those are just all the things that I'm thinking about going into this turn. Let's go ahead and flower select. You find a Roxanne and an energy. It's actually one of the harder decisions that I have to make here because I've already gotten rid of so many energies. First off, I will say I haven't gotten rid of any grass energies, so it's a little bit more okay. I will also say that this hand isn't super great. I would like to Roxanne because I know it won't affect Andy too much, not to disrupt him, but to try and unstick my hand a little bit. You could make an argument that this is pretty close to game in hand, but it's actually not because I need Clara, not boss, in order to win the game.
Right.
So let's go ahead and get rid of the grass energy, and we'll take the Roxanne.
Yep.
I will go ahead and just guarantee this play with the Attach Comfy Retreat, get into the Drapion V, and we will put down another Comfy. I honestly can't think of anything that I would rather have on this bench space except for a second Giratina. Since I'm playing Roxanne, I can't get the other Giratina back, and I only run 2 Giratina V. Go ahead and play Roxanne here. Oops. Throw my cards.
Yep, and that was a really good Roxanne. Of course, we had access to the VMAX, the Energy, a Crymomatic, which actually can't use this, but
yeah.
and then a Roxanne, of course, to disrupt Breeze after the Drapion attacks here.
Absolutely, and that's super impactful. That path to the peak, too. It's kind of interesting because the path could have shut off my Drapion, but the path also would have crippled you after the Roxanne here.
Yep.
Kind of a double-edged sword. Really cool card to play in Mew, though.
Yeah, it's nuts. And we did end up finding the Power Tablet after getting rid of that Path to the Peak, so... I think the Path to the Peak, although a good card, can sometimes ruin this deck.
Yeah.
Because if Breeze had drew a Psychic Energy and could have gotten off of Star Requiem if I didn't get the knockout, so... We draw 2 cards there. I'm gonna just put them down for now.
All right. So we got a lot of cool things in this hand. Again, I could use concealed cards here, but I'm going to take a look at the energy count, specifically what's discarded right now. I see that I'm down 3 grass, 2 psychic, 3 water, and 1 Mirage Gate. So I think it's actually relatively okay, considering I'm going down to 1 prize card here to just use concealed cards. One reason why I would want to keep the energy is if I get pathed here, then I definitely want some outs to using Drapion through Mirage Gates, which means that you need a lot of energy in order to do that.
Right.
But either way, I could just Requiem for game at that point, so... assuming I find the Clara is specifically what I'm talking about. So, really good hand here. The 2 Nest Balls are just dead cards, but I can play them next turn potentially for something. Switch Cart and Escape Rope are really nice. Escape Ropes are cool because after this turn, it doesn't matter what Andy has in his active. I can just knock it out with something. Chorus's Experiment is really good for drawing more cards, but again, we need that Clara in order to win here because if Andy does take a knockout on his following turn, it goes to 1 prize card. I can't attack with things like Sableye, Greninja, etc. I do need to end the game on my next turn. And I'm keeping all of that in mind right now. Next turn, I need to win, period.
Yep.
So let's go ahead. Don't want to play any of these cards right now. Save them for next turn. They're cards that are good to have in the deck. We will use Dynamic Tail for 190 damage.
Yep.
Times 2. 360. And it's best to put it on the Radiant Greninja. I don't know if you run the Oricorio. There's maybe some way I put it on a Comfy, you get knockouts with Glistening Droplets. I don't really know.
Fair enough.
And then we'll take 3 prize cards. And there's the Clara and the Recycler. Exactly what I wanted out of there.
So we're going to promote the Mew V, of course. because we look at our hand and we don't want to play the escape rope or the boss. We want to take this knockout on Drapion if possible. In one world, we would just go for the boss on the Giratina and Path to the Peak in play. But with Breeze having a million cards in hand, I really want to go for a Roxanne this turn. So we're going to draw for turn, and it is going to be a double turbo, so that's really good for me, as we can attach the double turbo here. And we're going to draw 3 cards with our first Fusion Strike system. 1, 2, and 3. So we did get access to the Cram-O-Matic and the Choice Belt. So we're going to go with the Choice Belt on the Mew V. And we're going to Cram-O-Matic, discarding the Escape Rope. See what we get? It's a Tails. That's no problem at all. We get to draw 3 more cards. 1, 2, 3. And there we go. We got the Roxanne. So we're going to go ahead and attach a Forest Seal Stone to Genesect V. And before playing Path to the Peak and ruining myself from finding a VMAX, I am going to go for that Roxanne.
All right.
And we are at a point in the game where no longer do I need to care about putting 3 Mew V into play. I am actually going to actively look for the 4th Genesect instead. No more Psychic Leaping for me. We're going for game wins. And one way to do that is to evolve both of my Mew VMAX so that Breeze can't win with any shenanigans like the Giratina's Shred with a Choice Belt or anything like that with an Escape Rope. Because you never know, you know, and you'd really like to get those cards out of your hand, get Path of the Peak down, get everything ready for next turn so that I can win.
Absolutely. And this is like go time, right? It's do or die right now.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there we go. We did find our Genesect V and an Ultra Ball. So we're going to Ultra Ball, discarding a Boss's Orders and a Battle VIP Pass. We have a boss in hand. So, and I'm like 99% sure after Breeze has played a Roxanne and discarded a Roxanne that there are no more Roxannes. So we're going to grab the Mew VMAX right here. I just realized that both of our decks are really spicy with all the alt arts and full arts and
Very
stuff.
shiny.
Yep. So we're going to grab the Mew VMAX here first. And then we do have access to 2 more Genesects with Fusion Strike System. We're really trying to find a Path to the Peak to shut down Breeze and hopefully evolve this into a Mew VMAX. So we're going to Fusion Strike System for 4 cards. We got 1, 2, 3, and 4. We got exactly what we wanted, including a Vacuum. So we're going to play the Path to the Peak after we evolve. So we're going to evolve into the Mew VMAX. Draw 1 last card with the Genesect. 1. There we go. We've got a switch card now, and we're going to Path to the Peak and copy Technoblast for the knockout. And I've got 5 cards in hand. 6 and 7. So now Breeze has to win the game this turn. Otherwise, I have game in hand with the switch and Boss's Orders. So now we're just waiting to see who's got this. It's down to the wire, and this is kind of where you want to be in every game, right? Mm-hmm. If your opponent doesn't brick, you want to be able to give your best, and this is the Mew's best. It's Path to the Peak Roxanne, so.
Absolutely.
Let's go for it.
So looking at a couple of rough cards in the hand right now, the Escape Rope is nice because, like I said, it's an out to just pivoting now. I don't care what Andy promotes. I'm looking for Clara and Mirage Gate this turn. Go ahead and draw. We find a Boss's Orders. In the worst case, I could maybe go for a Boss Stall on something. Before we use Flower Selecting, we'll Nest Ball. It gets a card out of the deck. And at this point, like we said, it's do or die time, right? You gotta win the game now, or you won't win the game.
Exactly.
Go ahead and grab the Cramorant, just so that it's not in the deck anymore. 1 less card that I can find off of my Flower Selecting that is not the card that I want. That would not be the card that I want. It's pretty rare for me to actually win the game from here, honestly. I'm thinking that I really need Beach Court, honestly. I think Beach Court is pretty much the only way that I can get out of this situation. Let's go ahead and use Flower Selecting. Look at the top 2 here. We find a Chorus, but like I said, the Chorus actually doesn't really do anything for me. So maybe it is the Psychic Energy here. I'm gonna look at the hand real quick, and I'm thinking... Options are, if Andy doesn't have a switch card because he Technoblast, so he can't attack with that Mew, he would need another double turbo, which he probably has. Or also, I guess a boss. So there's only one double turbo down.
Yep.
So you're pretty much guaranteed to have one. I guess I would need to escape rope this turn. Yes, let's go ahead and get rid of the Chorus's Experiment. And we have to play an escape rope now to get into the other Comfy to find... It has to basically be Beach Court, right? Off of this flower selecting. And then I have to conceal cards into Clara Mirage Gate, I think, is really the only way that I can see to get out of this. So let's see what we get. Switch Mirage Gate. Unfortunately, that doesn't quite do it for me. So, that being said, Mirage Gate and Switch, huh? Well, I feel like I have to kind of keep the Mirage Gate here. With the Choice Belt attached, also, I can't survive an attack from the Mew. So, Mirage Gate and Switch, huh? So the big thing with that is that I know I need the Mirage Gate, but I also am pretty sure that I'm not surviving another turn here. And the Switch really can't get me into anything super impactful. I think that actually taking the Switch would be my only win condition here, technically. Would be to take Switch to go boss on a Genesect.
Yep.
And obviously I know that you already have the Switch card in hand.
Of course.
Switch to get into the Cramorant.
Hit for that 110.
Keep the energy, hit for 110 next turn. You potentially hit it for 110 again. I could maybe use Moonlight Shuriken, but go ahead and do it.
And we did keep, of course, the Switch cards throughout the game. We can go ahead and use an Escape Rope, which is going to allow Breeze to switch into anything. Going to switch into that Giratina, and thanks to the Choice Belt, we do have enough to knock it out with one last Technoblast for exactly 220.
Exactly.
Good game.
Good game. Incredibly close.
Yeah.
Super fun. I'm glad that we got a really good game, honestly, to explain like that.
Indeed.
A lot of the decisions ended up mattering quite a bit, and that's why we like to talk through them and explain why we make certain decisions. Mew VMAX, a very powerful deck. If we were playing a best of 3, now we have a lot of knowledge about what the other player is doing, what their deck has,
right?
How to play around it, how to manage the game, right?
And I think it's really important for people to know that Breeze was so close to winning the game that if he V-starred the benched Giratina, he would have won the game. But he didn't have access to it, of course, thanks to Clara being prized and the Recycler being prized. It was very, very difficult to come back from that. But good decisions made by both players always lead to a good game and a good finale that was.
Absolutely.